What is up? Welcome back to the Tomahawk Talk podcast. As always, I am your man, Jeb Mays. With me, I've got Ryan. I think Jose is going to be with us shortly. Got a special guest for you today, Chad Durbin, former reliever for the Braves. One and done guy for Atlanta, but still nonetheless put up a pretty respectable season with us. 2012, that was Chipper's last year, obviously, through 60 innings, 76 games, while posting a 3.10 ERA and a 1.30 ERA plus. Long-time Philly, so we'll obviously give him shit for that in this upcoming interview. Obviously, we will, but one of my most favorite obscure Braves. I swear every time I turned on the TV and watched him in 2012, he was pitching. So that'll be fun. We'll get his insight on a lot of stuff going on around the league and some of his stuff from when he was playing and just kind of what he's been up to. I know he's got a player development kind of thing that he's starting out with Tyler Naquin. And yeah, Ryan, you got anything to add?
Nah, buddy, let's hop into it.
I saw you just sat down.
Hell yeah, dude. I've been busy ever since I got in his house,
dude. Dude, I finally, can finally start to get on that shower that I've been working on for 4 months. Fuck that. I can finally start it now.
God bless your soul, dude. I'd have just restarted the whole project. I'd have gotten rid of that whole shower.
I should have just took a bag of Doritos and just set it on fire and just burn the whole fucking house down at this point.
I don't know about going that far about it, buddy.
It'll look good when it's done, but it's one of those things where, was it worth me getting pissed off? Probably not. But, alrighty, well, with further ado, we are welcomed by Mr. Chad Durbin. All right, we're here with Chad Durbin. I am going to have to give you shit for that stuff that's in the background right now. Coming on a Braves podcast. How dare you?
I did it on a Mets one the other day. It is what it is.
Acceptable.
We lost the one playoff game when I was in Atlanta,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, we can talk about
we
every
will.
time an infield fly roll happens.
Yes.
In 9 you were in a big league game. I'm like, come on, here we go.
We will. I'm sure we'll get into that. We'll get it rolling. When you're in Atlanta, man, talk about the free agent process of you spent. What was it, 3 years straight in Philadelphia and then went to Cleveland and then coming to Atlanta. Talk about the free agent process of that and going to a division rival. Does that matter? Is that I'm just getting paid, I'm here? Kind of talk about the things about that.
Yeah, and so 3 years in Philly and I wanted to go back. I wanted to be in Philly for 5, 6, 7 years straight.
Boo.
Yeah, I mean, but we were pretty good at that point, and I was, getting the pitch, and they liked me, and I didn't get booed in Philly, which is tough. Whole lot easier to go out and play in some of those other places I played when I was younger, and they're like, "Oh, it's okay, kid. We'll get them next time," and that's not how it is in Philly. They're telling you where to park your car, and it ain't in Philly. You're like, but no. So the free agency process. My agent was convinced, that it was a pretty good market going into 11, and he was just trying to get, I said, look, I've been on a 1-year deal for 14 years of my life. I would love to get a 2 or 3 year deal, even if it's at a discount. And we were close a couple times, and it just kind of didn't play out. And so I went into early March, still hadn't signed with anybody, had been with Cleveland earlier in my career. I knew all the guys there, knew from president and owner to GM and assistant GMs, managers. I knew everybody. And they were like, hey, Chad, we'd love to have you, but we've got a pretty good bullpen. you just, your role is kind of, it's taken up by some guys. So anyway, I went there, on a really steep discount and bunch of incentives and reached a good bit of them. And then after that season was over, it's like, man, I want to go somewhere again where I'm an older reliever. I wanted to start and kind of relieving was where it was. Well, I want to go somewhere where we're going to win. I remember looking at, a couple different options in Atlanta to me with Chipper in his last year and that roster that year with all the names that everybody knows, watching them as you're growing up. And I played against a lot of those guys, a ton, from Prado. And I mean, I faced that whole lineup over and over and over again when I was in Philly. I was like, man, they're pretty good. They got a chance to make a run at this thing. It's a lot of fun. And they had two lefty relievers in O'Flaherty and Venners. I didn't know if we would have another one like we did, but we ended up with three guys that are mid-90s. So I was basically a right-handed specialist, once it did get to that year. So how it transitioned from Cleveland to that, the free agency process just kind of dried up on me. And my agent did the best he could. I was mad because I would have just taken, a pretty steep discount on 1 year plus, an option in Philly. And we passed it up. And by the time, they signed 3 or 4 different guys for a lot more than they were going to pay me. And I was friendly with everybody. They were just like, hey man, we don't have it. You can come to spring. You're going to make the team, but you wouldn't be guaranteed anything. I'm like, good Lord. No, I don't want to do that. I'd like to go somewhere and actually play. I had a couple funny, kind of bridge to this is, if you think about back, around 2010, 11, 12, 13, the end of my career, it was when data was starting to, and the metrics and, StatCast, TrackMan reports, Rapsodo, it was just creeping in. And some teams had robust analytics departments and some had nothing. Nobody. And Philly was one of those. And so I had a couple GMs and assistant GMs reach out. They're like, hey, dude, you have some pretty good metrics. And you don't, from a pitch usage standpoint, you don't use those pitches. Those are your third and your fourth pitch, but what would you think about going to AAA in Pawtucket or go to AAA somewhere and just make 10 starts with our pitch usage and developing those pitches? And I remember thinking man, I spent a lot of time going back and forth between minors and big leagues. And I had, I don't want to go to AAA. I'm going to continue. And it's not like I had bad years where they're like, hey, dude, you had a 6 ERA. It's time to go clean it up. It was coming off of decent years. But yeah, that free agency process was, you get excited about it if you're in the 1%. If you're in the rest of the 99, it's like, oh, okay, that was fun once. I would like to get this done as soon as possible.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. And you mentioned, the metrics and stuff. What is your take on that? Because I know there's the old heads, that are screaming, kind of counting stats, and then there's the guys who are, stuff plus, all this stuff. Where do you kind of fall with all of that?
So I run a pitching academy with, a good buddy of mine here in Baton Rouge, and obviously LSU's here, and there's a ton of really good baseball, across the country on I-10 and I-20. If you just drew a line, there's a ton of talent. But it's like I think about it this way. I still speak in some old school terms, but I immediately back it up with whatever that is relatable to the person in front of me. My son's at Southern Miss. He had a Tommy John, so he's going to miss this year. But he has. I had to figure out some metric stuff because his metrics were really unique. But if I was just looking at the ones I knew at the time when he was 15, 16, 17, and kind of coming into his own, the metrics weren't jumping off the board. But he would get swings and misses from guys that were getting drafted in the first round and going to SEC schools, and they'd swing and miss and come back and tell me hey, how much did I miss that by? I'm like, 1.5 feet, 2 feet, and they're like, dude, there's something going on. I don't get it. So I actually asked a buddy of mine, Zach Day, who was a first-round pick for the Expos way back. He worked at TrackMan for 10 years, and he's been with Newt Force Mound, which is that really really cool censored mound with force plates that everybody uses. But he kind of explained, he's like, okay, I'm going to look up his TrackMan data, and he was like, hey man, he's a little bit of a unicorn. I'm like, why? What new metric am I missing? I mean, the vertical is good, but not great. 19 and 20 is good, but it's not like you should swing and miss by a foot. And there was it just seemed like the ball was coming in. Well, I called it flat because that's what the old school term is. Well, flat's good if you know where to throw it. And he just commands the ball really well. So Zach said, look, he's got a VAA that's way below big league average. It's very unique. And his vertical, if you have a flat VAA, your vertical isn't really good because it's hard to make it good. It's hard to get it to jump like that. And he had, 19, 20 on the vert plus a really flat VAA, which just makes the ball hard to recognize. Like the hitters just can't see it. It looks like it's climbing up their body as they're approaching contact. So going back to your questions, I love the metrics in that the learning curve. Like I can teach someone in a hurry. What would have taken me 10 sessions, or I'll even use it like this. I actually read where Nate Yeske, who's at LSU, been around, pitched in pro ball, so he's old school and new school. But he said where you would have to throw 16 changeups to maybe feel that it's doing the right thing, you can probably throw 3 or 4 on TrackMan and get the right data back. Hey, that was a really good pitch. All the metrics match all the other metrics that we need them to tunnel the right way. Change this, do this. It just shortens the curve, and you don't have to throw as many pitches to develop. But what I've found is the kids end up being a little bit of a slave to it. And maybe that's a bad term to use in 2026, but you end up like throwing the pitch and immediately, instead of just evaluating the flight of the ball to the catcher and what the hitter just did, you immediately want to see if the data was good. It was like, well, what did your eyeballs tell you? What did the catcher do? What did the hitter do? That's really the feedback that you need when you're on that island, that bump out there where there's no metrics. That's when you need it. So to me, I think there's this happy, kind of medium. And I've used AI. I'll pump in a CSV file. I'll pump it out. I'll prompt it perfectly so that we can communicate and educate a kid, give him a little slideshow on who he is, what arsenal he should use, which fastball. Because they'll come in and their high school coach is like, well, he threw a sinker, so everybody throws a sinker. I was like, well, your sinker's garbage. Your four seam is elite. Like, it's really hard to have both. And you end up talking to a kid and then talking to, I guess I have a little bit of leeway in that I played for 14 years in big leagues, but I can talk to a pitching coach or a coach at a high school and say, hey, have you ever thought about maybe pitching him this way? Who did you face when you were playing back, years ago that kind of had this type of stuff? And so I can bridge the gap a little bit, but I think it's a really cool tool to use. I wish I had it. I probably would have, Kurt Ainsworth, who founded Marucci, and a bunch of buddies of mine that have been around a while, we said we would have locked ourselves in a lab somewhere and thrown 700 pitches trying to get it right. And why not? I mean, because we never had it. I think the kids now, it's just their normal, like, we don't let them throw. We'll throw like a baseline TrackMan pen, and then we need you to throw 3 or 4 without it. And then we'll plug it back in and it will pull it from you again so that you kind of just normalize that the feel is there. So you can go out and get people out, which it's the only way you're going to pitch in high school and college and in pro balls if you get outs. So we do kind of get the old school metrics of like, hey, first pitch strikes, strike percentage, win the 1-1 count, all that stuff. Those are probably still the most important metrics. They're just not as sexy and cool.
I'm going to follow that up with I've got a couple questions that I'm kind of bouncing.
You're good.
I guess what is one tool that you wish you could have had that's kind of emerged now through like the StatCast stuff and whatever?
Yeah, so I think back on what my stuff was. When I came into the league, I was guaranteed it was a 93 to 95 type of top of the zone 4-seam that I don't remember, unless I got the ball down and missed, it ever really getting hit up top. It would get swung through or popped up in the infield or fouled off. And so I would want, not just for me, but I would want the pitching coaches and the organizations that I played for to say, okay, he's a north-south guy, and all we did was manipulate everything to get the east-west. Hey, he needs to throw a sinker. Hey, he needs to throw a slider. Hey, he needs to do this. Instead of like, man, this really plays. What do we need to do better? And I had a couple coaches over the years say, hey, Chad, I think you need to pitch up a little bit more. Our catchers are telling us like the guys are shaking their head after the ball up. I mean, can we attack that up? And you do it for an outing, and the cross, one of your roving pitching instructors would send a report back and say, hey, he just can't get the ball down, he's not ready to move up. And it's like, okay, you're not going to be rewarded the same way. So I think the combination of learning what your metrics are, what plays best, and then being able to go execute that, I feel like I'm a sharp enough guy that it would have been a lot of fun to know how to attack hitters, based on like what stuff, what your best fastball is, what your best secondary pitch is, and just, jump in a lab, gain the information, maybe a little bit of coming back from Tommy John. I changed a little bit of the spine angle. I was a little bit lower slot, and I, much better statistics. I wish guys didn't do steroids back when I played early. I want an asterisk by all those stats. That maybe that can we do that? God, they were just freaking monsters, and just RBI baseball lineups. So you're playing your video game at home when you're 17, and then 3-4 years later you're facing a lineup full of monsters. So all of that stuff.
Fortunate for me, growing up, I got a little bit of it, but small town North Carolina, not too much of it.
I got de nada of it. Yeah. Nothing, brother. It was all field learning on my own in a small town.
Yep. I didn't pitch much. I was a shortstop. I was drafted as both. Nobody really, I pitched right away and pitched well, so they kind of put that in my back pocket. But I would jog in from shortstop and throw the last inning, maybe get some starts here and there, but it was mainly just, hey, I'm just going to lift my leg, put it down, and try to throw the piss out of it. Shortly thereafter, I learned I did, the middle of the field, the catchers, the shortstops, and the center fielders or right fielders with big arms, they end up being good pitchers if that's what happens, because they usually have big arms and accurate arms and all that stuff. So I always pitched. It wasn't like I didn't pitch, but I didn't pitch a whole lot in high school because I was the best option at shortstop or third base when I was younger. And it's like we had other pitchers. We had other really good pitchers. So it wasn't like there was a steep drop-off. There's a drop-off the other way. When I did pitch, a ground ball to shortstop was like, oh, crap. Why are you letting them hit it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, look, in our little district in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, we had Ben Sheets, we had Ryan Terrio, we had Kurt Ainsworth. Like we had talent. So it's funny, Terrio told me at one point, and Ryan played at LSU and then won 2 World Series, kind of floating through the big leagues. And he said when he got to LSU, he had faced Sheets and Ainsworth and me and Gil Mesh, who played for the Royals for years. He's like, man, the SEC arms aren't anywhere near as good as I thought they were going to be. And then, like, a couple years later, we're all in the big leagues. He's like, wait a second, maybe you guys were really good, and I just didn't know any better. Because he was like, these guys are not throwing as hard as I thought they would be. But it's just kind of funny that you don't know until you don't know,
Yeah. So what you're really saying is, if given the opportunity, you probably could have been Shohei Ohtani. I mean, you basically ran so Ohtani could walk.
That's correct. I'd swing my wet newspaper and play some good defense. Hey, I hit 318 in AAA. I did. That part was real. It's easy when pitchers are just throwing 93-mile-an-hour heaters right down the middle to other pitchers. So it's like going to D-bat and dialing it up. Like you can put the bat on the ball. It's different when they start throwing you first pitch breakers and then follow it up with like a sinker on your hands. You're like, whoa, wait. Who said y'all could do that? This is unfair now. Fastball middle.
So, I mean, since you brought it up, you got to play with Tim Hudson, who's known for kind of being a decent hitting pitcher.
He's a good hitter, yeah.
I know he let you know about it too, didn't he?
Yeah, was there like some kind of competition with the pitchers?
Well, I was a reliever, so we're on our own little, they cage us up out there, keep us out of everybody else's hair. And only bring us in when when everything's on fire. But Huddy. So I actually faced Huddy in I think it was in 07. I was with Detroit. It could have been with Philly. But I remember looking at BMAC and I was like, did the ball go up and then down? Like usually sinkers are like this, and his was like up and then just like it's like somebody had a hair dryer on it and it was like going back down. I'm like, what the hell was that? And he goes, yeah, dude, you have nice. The next one I swung at, I fouled it through my legs, and I was swinging right-handed because they didn't want the arm exposed. That switch hit. They're like, you're not going up there left-handed. There's just no point. I'm like, well, I'm not used to the ball doing this out here. And Jim Leyland, I think it was like, you're not used to the ball doing anything. You hadn't hit in 10 years. So that's the reality of it. Okay, I'm on this podcast. My kid's right here. Just tell him I'm unavailable.
Gotcha.
Okay, thanks. He's like, Dad, there's somebody at the door. I'm like, that's funny. It probably somebody doing roofs in the neighborhood. They come knock on all doors. But I look. It was really cool to play with those guys. Huddy was fun to watch because our career timelines were very similar.
Mm-hmm.
I was drafted in '96. I think he was drafted 5 or 6. He got to the big leagues in a hurry. I remember watching a ton of those Oakland A's games because I was in Kansas City, and we were good in Kansas City offensively. Our pitchers were a couple of years behind, and I think about like our outfield was Johnny Damon, Beltran, Jermaine Dye, like in Damon almost a Hall of Famer, Beltran a Hall of Famer, and Jermaine Dye. If you go look up his stats, they're pretty stinking good. Like he was a Brave to start out. Like came over and just a really talented team. Mike Sweeney was at first. We just couldn't time up. They almost synced it up so that these young starters came along and just took off. And we just, as soon as we all kind of either, if you look back at the roster, nobody did it in Kansas City other than maybe Greinke and a couple guys, but everybody ended up having long careers somewhere else and winning and 10-year careers are hard. It's really hard to do it. It was an interesting path to get to. Always enjoyed. I grew up watching WGN and TBS, so my girlfriend in high school loved the Braves, man, and I love the Braves too. But you can't like the same team as your girlfriend. So I'm like, I like the Giants. I like freaking Barry Bonds. I'm gonna like, and they were good back then too. They just weren't the Braves, and I was like, come on, this has got to be better. But she would talk smack. She's like, these pitchers, you like pitching, you need to watch these guys. She wasn't wrong. They were stinking good. It was fun.
Oh yeah. Ryan, turn it to you.
All right. Give me one Chipper story from 2012 and his farewell.
So I think about this pretty often because Freddie Freeman is still playing and probably on his way to the Hall of Fame. He was maybe 21, and in his second year, he'd come up the previous year, and or maybe 2 years before that. I think he came up in 10, so he was in his second year. And he's watching Freddie take these fastballs in BP, throw it in, and he's hitting line drives down the left field line. But, lefty hits it bows back to the line and kind of bounces out. And Chipper's like, hey, he's hitting line drives like a righty is hitting them. Like, he's staying inside. It's staying straight. And, it's not even – it's inside the line, and it's not even – it's hitting the wall. It's not hitting, and bowing off. He's like, I can't do that. And I'm pretty good. I can't do what Freddie's doing. And he's big. Freddie's a big human. And you look at – he's like – and he looked like a newborn giraffe. He was thick. Big, strong, but he looked kind of like he shouldn't be out there yet. Hey, he needs to go back down. He doesn't quite look like Hayward. Jay Hay looked like bigger and stronger and all that stuff, but man, he could just hit. And that was kind of Chipper's, energy is everybody, you play against him all those years and you're just like, man, don't get in a situation where that guy can beat you. It's way cooler if somebody else does. You just don't want him to beat you. I would throw him 4-seam middle every time I'm not about to. I say this to kids today. It's a great way to teach advantage counts, right? Leverage counts is which, I asked the guy, who's your favorite player? And, Chipper was one of mine. So which Chipper do I want to face? Do I want to face the 0-1 Chipper or do I want to face the 1-0 Chipper? Chipper's hitting 280 in an 0-1 count. He's hitting 375. In a 1-0 count. Which guy do I want to face? So I just told myself, as I got older, I'm throwing a middle heater. If he swings, he swings. And he would take it every time. And he'd do his little tap and he'd watch it and he's like, he asked me, like, what were you thinking? Why would you throw me that pitch? Your stuff wasn't good enough to throw that pitch. And I'm like, because I don't want to face the 1-0 chipper. And he laughed. He's like, oh, of course. I get that, dude. But he just was so stinking. It looks so easy. And look, if you go watch a college game right now, or you go watch a high school game, or you go watch some prospects, there's guys that throw really hard. There's guys that swing the bat really hard. There's guys that throw really hard from positions. But which one of the guys on the field make it look really easy? And Chipper always made it look really easy. Like, some of the most talented guys on the planet make it look really easy. That's what's attractive to me. I can't help it from playing so long. And I noticed it even more, oddly enough, when I broadcasted in 22. I did about 50, 60 games with the Phillies, but you're up in the booth and you're looking down on the field, and the ease of the game and who does it easier becomes even more, apparent. You look at JT Realmuto throw a ball down, and you look at a young shortstop make a play in a hole and just make an easy throw over. And that's what Chipper, even in his old age. And one of the funnier things I could say is I fielded my position pretty well. And he would just kind of laugh. He's like, if it's hit to me and it's not hard and it's soft, I'm going to field it barehanded. And I can't move very well. Both these knees are wrapped. Like, my hamstrings are wrapped. Everything's wrapped. I can't go get it. Like, you're on your own. I'm like, dude, I'm going to get everything, I can to this side of the field. And he's like, good, because I'm telling you, I'm not using this thing. I'm going to use this thing. And because they won't call it an error. And it's not because he's not, a stud, but, he's like, it hurts. He's older. So, yeah, he was there. He would get there at like noon, guys, and it's Chipper, man. He'd get there like noon and spend 4 hours to get ready to try to go hit BP and then not be ready. He's like, I can go out there for the game. I can DH tonight, but I can't. Like, my body's saying no today. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, wow. But just, and a great teammate. Like, I don't know how he was early on in his career, because everybody's heard some rumors about this, that, and the other. But I think having Eric Hinsky and Brian McCann, David Ross, just having, like, the type of guys that were around that gave him crap, but in a very, like, fun way. I think he had the most fun. I mean, he obviously had fun when he was younger, too. But I think he had a lot of fun those last couple years with those guys. A lot of smiling, a lot of laughing. The tour where he would get, a surfboard in San Diego, and it's just really cool that, you get to see a guy go through kind of their farewell tour when they've been doing it for 20 plus years. So that was a really cool experience.
Oh yeah. You kind of mentioned that, Chipper was a good teammate and all this. Like, that 2012 team, that's how I fell in love with baseball, because, Chipper was my guy, and fortunately I got to go to a couple games in his last season. I actually got to go to the game against the Padres where he hit the 2 bombs on the bobblehead night.
Yes, indeed.
And meddling through a shutty. What was... I mean, you don't have to air any dirty laundry out, but, like, you guys are with each other for, 10 months out of the year. I mean, was there any butting heads? How do you manage that with a team like that, with a guy like him? And I guess, like, kangaroo court, is that still around too? Or was that a thing?
Well, I think with so many guys with 10 plus, 15 plus years, I mean, you really think about that clubhouse. The young guys, I mean, you had Michael Bourne in there, who wasn't that young, but he was a little bit younger. Jason Hayward, Freddie, and they were good. Like, they were starting, so you don't have a whole lot of button heads with that. Maybe a couple starters that were a little bit younger, but they're on their own program. As far as, like, the actual, like, core of the team, it was a team of guys that had been there, done it, seen playoffs. Hinsky was on the Tampa team that lost to the Phillies. David Ross had been around for a while, and those guys would just take over the room and make it. Believe me, those rookies and those younger guys feared those older guys with big voices and a lot of experience. But you need that. You need a little bit of, if I do this wrong, I really don't want paparazzi freaking losing his crap on me. I don't want Eric Hinsky getting on the mic on the bus and blowing me up for 15 minutes. So I'm going to just err on the side of asking, hey, Derbs, should I say or do this? No, don't. Like, we'll what do you need done? Like, what are you asking? Okay, we'll talk amongst each other, and I'll get back to you on that. But I think it was, you learn your way as a young guy. You really do. I mean, I guess in college and high school, you're just guys are just a couple years older than you. When you come into the league at 20 and there are 40-year-old men with kids your age, like, you don't need to be told to act right. Like, I came into the league, I was 21 in Kansas City, and I remember Doug Henry was one of our relievers, and he had been in Milwaukee for 15 years. He had a daughter my age, and he told me, he's like, I'm going to say this, I'm going to smile at you, kid, but you don't look at her, you don't talk to her. If she's in the elevator and you open the door, you don't get in the elevator. Like, this is really simple. I remember, like, him being on the elevator, grinning at me from behind his wife and his daughter and all that stuff, and the elevator opened up, and I was like, I'll catch the next one. And he's nodding, smiling at me. I'm like, it ain't happening. Like, I don't know if you were serious or not, but it ain't happening. But that's kind of the aura. That's what you feel when you're around those older guys. And we had such a good group with that, where Chipper really didn't have to call anybody out. Like, he had all the rest of us, and I'm telling you, Hinsky and Rossi are big personalities. You know better, and Martin Prado might have been like my favorite guy to just be around. He would quote movies. He learned how to speak English by watching, like, funny movies. And so I got Pujols out one game playing St. Louis, and, like, he's running in from third base to that first base dugout, and he's like, Step Brothers. He's like, after that act that you did to the one that they call Pujols, and he said it just like that. He said, maybe one day we could be friends. And I was like, did you just quote Step Brothers walking off the field? That's freaking awesome. This dude's my favorite. And from then on, I'm like, every at bat he had the rest of his life, if it wasn't against me, I was like, please get hit. I love you, Martin. I love you. You think about that bench. So out in the bullpen, we had Eddie Perez, who just calming, been around, can tell stories till the cows come home. But you had Snit in as the third. I think he was third base coach, and kind of the bench coach. Freddie Gonzalez, who'd been around, kind of a player's manager. Terry Pendleton, TP. So you had guys there that had been around the game a long time, like Snit. You also had guys that played. Like, we had to tell some guys, go look up Terry Pendleton's stats.
Oh my gosh!
Like, if you because he walks by you, you're like, whatever. But go look at the back of the baseball card, brother. Go baseball reference this guy. Like, it's stupid what he was with the Cardinals early on, and so I just thought it was really a really good staff. Roger McDowell, who, when you're going well, and I learned this from a pitching coach. Kurt Young was the pitching coach for the A's in, like, the 2000s, maybe through the early 2010s. And I pitched in Arizona Fall League, and I was just doing really well. And I'll say this because I'm comparing Roger McDowell. Both those guys actually pitched. And it's what I would do. When you're going really well, good coaches leave you the hell alone. What are you going to tell a guy? And how receptive is somebody going to be to, like, hey, we need to make this, wholesale change, but you've given up, like, 2 runs in your last 20 innings. Like, I'm not going to listen. And so Kurt Young, I was like, hey, man, you're obviously a really good pitching coach. This was out in Arizona Fall League in '99. And Roger kind of did the same thing because I was going good mid-season. I'm like, hey, do we think this? We think that. Kurt Young was like, dude, what am I going to tell you right now? Like, I can't tell you anything. Go impress yourself, and if things go off the rails, we'll talk. And Roger McDowell was kind of this, only thing they did with me. And he's like, hey, would you entertain this? Because Rossi and McCann kind of said, your sinker might play better from the first base side of the rubber. And I'd thrown from the third base side of the rubber since, 7 years old, 8 years old. So I did, because I watched the Cubs or TBS, and that's where guys threw from. So I threw from there. But they had some logic to it. And that was he didn't really tell me anything else. He's like, would you consider it? Well, yeah, let's try it out. And it worked. I mean, I was pitching well. So, yeah, of course, let's see what works. But, yeah, it was just a good staff, a good team. I thought I wish we played in the new ballpark. I like the old ballpark, but that new one, it's pretty nice.
Oh, it is.
It's
Very
pretty
nice.
cool.
Very nice.
Yeah. So yeah, it is what it is. I'm not going to complain too much. The battery, like being able to go hang out there, because when your son plays, 16 and 17U, you end up going to Lake Point up in Emerson. You end up, which is outside of Atlanta. You end up going to East Cobb. You play in the
Yep.
WWBA, and so you end up in Atlanta. And you end up, if the Braves are in town, you're going to a game or two, or at least going down to the Battery to eat with a couple of the guys and go watch, and hear the crowd and all that stuff. And just a great place to go. Can't complain at all. It does end up costing you an arm and a leg, but you can, it is what it's so much fun to be down there. That's my take on that one.
Was there like maybe a I know they kind of did away with it, but like, was there some kind of pranking or kind of hazing that kind of was really funny that 2012 year? Like somebody got basically, and then did you ever kind of got your rookie year?
So that year, I can't remember what we dressed him up in or what the rookie kind of hazing was. At a point, as a veteran, I guess you get to like 10, 12, 15 years. It's less, it's funny to make a guy dress up in a Hooters outfit or whatever it is for, and go sing or whatever it is. But it's not like so I don't have, I'm sure I could think of something and I might while I'm talking. I got worn out. I was 21. There wasn't, the closest to me was Jeff Suppan, and he was 25 years old, and he'd been around the big leagues for 3 or 4 years. I had no leverage. And so every bus trip, and Kansas City's airport is about 30 minutes from the ballpark. So every single time I got on that bus, I had to sing, tell stories, entertain the team. And in 2001, so I got up in 99. 2000, sing, dance, do whatever. In 2001, I threw 180 innings and I missed the month of April. Like I got sent out and then came back up. And I had the second worst run support in the league. So you want to get up there after throwing 7, giving up 1 and getting a loss. You want to get up on the bus and be like, I'm not singing. Score a run and I'll sing. How about swing the bats? We're supposed to be pretty good and y'all suck. So you want to have an attitude. I remember pitching in Anaheim, and I think it was 8 innings, gave up 2, and I complete game. Like I got a complete game loss. Pulsifer was their closer. I remember sitting on the bench looking up at the scoreboard. I'm like, okay, if we score a couple here, maybe I can get a dub. And I look and he's running in. I'm like, oh God, it's the 9th. It's over. And then we go to the airport. I'm kind of pissed the whole flight. We get into Kansas City, and like a couple of the guys are like, Durbs, get up there. I'm like, it ain't happening today. I score some runs, and I did. It wasn't quite what I dreamt about saying, but it was enough where they were like, okay, we'll leave you alone. And then like a couple weeks later, all the rookies get up there. And the funny thing is, at 23, they were all younger. I mean, older than me when they got up, but I had time on them. I had almost 2 years of service time by then. And I remember they were like, Durbin, you don't have to sing this time. Like, we're going to let you off the hook. And I was like, good, because it was going to come down to a fight. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. But it is. It's, I think I dressed up as a red. I was a last second call up in 99. Got called up to Old Tiger Stadium, like where Ty Cobb played. It was really cool because it was packed. It was the last series ever there. But they had these outfits for every other guy. Well, I got there the day that they were leaving. We were going back, and so they didn't have an outfit for me. They sent somebody to like the local Halloween store or something. I got a red M&M outfit that I had to wear on the plane. And the veteran guys were like, just make sure there's a trash bag full of beer for us. Don't give us a reason to undress you. That was kind of the veterans were a little bit different back then than they are now. Vizquel was really cool. I wasn't a veteran I wasn't a veteran, but I definitely wasn't a rookie when I was with Cleveland. He's like, hey, we're trying to win. I don't want these guys thinking about anything but getting better. And I remember thinking, fair, like I want to win too. And that wasn't in 11. That was in 4 and 5, 3 and 4. He was just like, I'm still here. Everybody else is gone. I would like to develop these guys, and making them freaking jump through hoops like that isn't like, yeah, you need to be a rookie, but we don't need to wear them out. And I appreciated that. It made me think differently about it.
Ryan?
Chad, did you have Tommy John surgery?
I did. I had it on September 5th of 2002.
Can you so what do you think about the epidemic of Tommy John and what it's got going on? And that, not just the big leagues. I mean, I work in the medical field, and I'm seeing patients like 12, 13, even some 11-year-olds coming in with Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, I think, my son just had it, and you think, you're in the medical field. I run a performance pitching academy and played for a long time, so I get a lot of people asking me like, what can we do to prevent it? Number one, if you want to prevent like an arm surgery, don't throw. Okay, that's number one. We're not going to do that because we want to play. So as soon as you're throwing overhand, you're at risk, and we want to do everything we can. And it's I think we have so many people out there that know enough to be dangerous, so they know how to speed you up and throw harder than you ever have, or spin it harder than ever. But we don't have enough information to go protect you. I kind of up the chain. Like we don't make the shoulder and all the breaks that are necessary to make the stress stay off the elbow. It doesn't happen. And my son, he was I was light. I was drafted 6'2", 158. He was 6 foot, maybe 155. But he got up to 165. He got long COVID and lost like 20 pounds, but he was still 88, 91. And it finally just gave. He had a partial tear, and we were like, man, we controlled the throwing program. He did tons of arm care. Ultimately, it wasn't a mechanical thing. It was because his body wasn't quite ready to throw that hard. But he had. That's where getting sick kind of played in. Mm-hmm. If I look at why I think big leaguers are getting hurt, it's because they're rewarded for hitting those. They're pressing limits on every throw. Like, we're trying to spin it. Like, Cade, my son spins his breaking ball between 29 and 3,200. Like, that's good. That's good. But it's stressful. Mm-hmm. And like, he doesn't try to. He's not trying to spin the highest rate he can. But just the fact that that's there makes other guys want to chase that number. And so they're trying to spin it, which means you got to grip the ball just a little bit harder, and you got to really get after it. Versus fastballs are the same way. Like, there's a heat sheet and thrown out there every other day for high schoolers. And look, even at the youth level, 13 and 14-year-old, 12-year-old heat sheets are like, oh, he hit 78. And then you got everybody, well, what did I hit, Dad? And you're like, well, 64. I don't know. Did you throw strikes? But you can't blame them when this in their hand, their phone, is telling them that they're not good if they don't do this. And that's chase those limitations. Those high limits of spin every time, or those high limits of velo. And when you do that, you lose command. And so when you lose command, you throw more pitches per inning. And, the balls have changed over the years. They're slick. They're like playing with, a cue ball. And so you need to grip the ball. You've got to grip it tighter, versus the leather on the older balls gave just a little bit. And so the big complaint a couple of years ago, not necessarily the Spidey tack stuff, but just having enough tack on your fingers to not lose the ball. Throwing 95 plus, 100 for some of these guys. The hitters don't care. Just don't lose the ball. So I do think that there's just and look, lifting the way that guys lift now, because in order to throw harder, you've got to go get stronger, and you got to train, and there's not enough rest. And, and look, the organizations are making money by having tournaments. And if, they're really talented kids. I'll use Connor Griffin as an example. He's with our Knights Nation organization. He's in Jackson, Mississippi, or Madison Prep. Or no, he was at Jackson Prep, and we knew he was good at 13, 14 years old. He was throwing 90 plus and running like a deer. He just looked different than every other player. And he touched 97, I think, his freshman year. And we asked their coaches, and they agreed. They're like, we're shut him down from pitching. Like, there's he's going to get hurt. And thank goodness, but they shut it down. His dad is a really knowledgeable guy, He's a softball coach at Bellhaven, but baseball guy. Like he's coaching softball, but he's a baseball guy. And totally, I remember talking to them. They had no idea who I was, and they probably had unadvertised information coming at them all the time. But I was walking out of the Hoover, quad there, and they were sitting at the car waiting to see him play. And the week before he was with another organization. The week before that he was with somebody else. And I just told him, it doesn't matter whether, and I had Knights stuff on. I said, it doesn't matter if it's Knights or Canes or, East Cobb, but find an organization you can trust that will help you say no to go. Because if you're really good, you can play every weekend. You can go to every event, and the fear of missing out with the recruiting trail and all that stuff. We took 3 and 4 and 5 months off. We played other sports, Ryan. Like there really was, and I threw against a pad after my basketball games to keep my arm kind of ready, but I didn't rip through a baseball until, seriously, until I saw some scouts with a gun. I'm like, oh gosh, like, maybe I need to go try to hit 93, 94 today, but up to that point, it wasn't like I was training to do that in December or in January. Like you look at Chase Burns with the Reds the other day, like they got this, it's a great clip because it's fun to watch. I like watching guys throw 100. It's cool. But when a guy rips through one like that in slow-mo in February, and it's 101 and it looked really cool, and man, you're just tap dancing at having a year and a half off. I mean, guys get back I got back by September 1 the following year. September 5th surgery, got back. That's almost too quick, but we can argue that separately. But you really lose 18 months to 24 months. It's a 2-year window. Andrew Painter's a guy with the Phillies that, excuse me, he didn't have command last year, and they're all in a panic. I'm like, he's 12 to 18 months out of a surgery. He's 6'7". He threw 100 before. It's going to take a minute for him to get the dexterity and the feel and the command. And these guys train with a hack attack at 45 feet to hit 100 miles an hour now. It's not like they've never seen it. So what I think happens, and we kind of tell everybody, William Schmidt's a guy that we've known for a while. He's at LSU. He would have been a first-round pick. He's 95 to 98 every time out with one of the best curveballs that are going. It's going to be in the draft the next couple of years. But I told him the other day in a text, it's going to come down to command. It's always going to come down to command. Like, it's really cool to have that stuff, but those hitters don't care. If you're in a 2-0 count and you got to throw a 96-mile-an-hour heater, they might foul it off, but they might hit it. And they're more likely to hit it in that count. So he went out the other day and threw really well. But that's the way I think about, like, the Tommy John epidemic. I just think arm injuries are going to continue to happen. If you tried to go PR sprinting every single day, Achilles, hammies, quads, hip flexors, knees, everything. You can't do it every day. You can until you can't. And that's kind of the way I look at it. Like, I just think that the management of throwing programs and giving guys low intent days, high intent days, it's a really tough thing to manage because these guys want to go chase it. Their high school coach, the high school coaches do such a good job. The problem is they're fighting against this kind of the private side too. So they've got this really good plan, and then a kid throws a 30-pitch bullpen at school, and then he leaves and he goes to the academy or pitching instructor. Yeah. The dad paid $100 for this former big leaguer to do something, and he's not going to like give the guy the $100 because you're going to throw tonight. Well, I already threw today, but he won't tell the guy that the instructor. So the instructor goes in blind, and then the high school coach and the instructor are button heads, and the kid ends up getting hurt because the dad doesn't want to piss anybody off either. And it's like, man, if we would just communicate better and be conservative. Like, the truth is, a lot of the guys that get to the big leagues were probably going to get there anyway. But you can't blame a guy for wanting to chase it. You hit 94.9 in a bullpen, that's really cool. But it's not sustainable if that's your top.
Right.
Like, go throw 88, 89, 90 in a pen and command it and throw 8 pitches in an inning, throw 75 pitches in a 6-inning start. That's sustainable. I just think that it's social media. It's and guys are bigger, stronger, faster. It's like I said, I like watching guys throw 100. It's cool. I also like watching guys hit balls 500 feet. I think that's just as cool.
Not off you though.
I mean, occasionally I gave up a bunch. I think I gave up 230 combined minor leagues and big leagues. I tell guys all the time they'll give up a home run, and I'll tell them I hope you give up 200 more, and they're like, Coach, I'm like, yeah, I hope you give up 200 more. Do the math, and they're like, oh, I'll do that. I'll sign up for that right now. And I say, you know who gave up the most ever? Jamie Moyer.
Yeah.
He gave up like 550 homers. Sign me up. I'll do that. 25 a year for 20 years. Yes. Let's go. Let's go. But that's, I like Charlie Manuel, who, if you look up, he got stuck behind a Hall of Famer up in Minnesota. He was a left-handed first baseman, left-handed hitting first baseman. He went to Japan and hit like 40 a year for like 10 years straight. And then came back over and was managing those Phillies. And when you give up a home run in spring training, which is relaxed, you give a home run, you come off, have a decent inning, just give up a solo. He's like, hey, Durbs, come here. And I go, what's up, Chuck? And he's like, you know what's good about it? And I'm like, nothing. Give up a homer. He goes, I saw it. He just likes seeing homers. He's like, seeing homers is cool. So it's hitting season. I want to see some hitting. I care less about you pitchers. So I always thought that was funny.
Ryan?
Oh, all right. We were talking about it before we hopped on the podcast, but what was it like playing for Jim Leyland?
So he was as honest and as straightforward as you could possibly be. He was very, like, not self-deprecating in a bad way, but as far as playing the game, he would tell an entire clubhouse or an entire spring training roster of 55, 60 guys, hey, it's a really hard game. I know how hard it is, but we have high expectations, and and he would get in your rear end if you weren't doing things the right way. I mean, he got in Bond's rear end. We've all seen that video. But he was also, man, when you did it right, he would celebrate it with you. And he's just tactician. He could feel for the game, knowing who to put out there at the right time. He really funny guy, like one of the funnier managers I ever played for, because it was always like, just the context was always, he hit it perfect. He came out, Sean Casey told this story one time on MLB Network. He's like, hey, he texted me, he's like, Durbs, can I tell this one? You remember Leyland, Skip coming out there and, talking about, packs the game, blah, blah, blah. So I'll tell it. I'm in like the fifth inning of a start, and we're winning. I think we're playing a tight game. It's maybe 2-1. And he comes out and he's like, just shuffling out there. He's got his cleats on because he wore his nails. And he comes out and he's like, hey, Durbin, I need you to go from 3 packs a game to 2 packs a game. You're killing me right now. Like, get ahead. Like, get us back in the dugout to hit. But I need you to be a 2-pack a game guy. You're a 3-pack a game guy right now. And it was Pudge. It was Brandon Inge at third base, who's a good buddy of mine still. Carlos Guillen, Polanco, and Sean Casey. And the look everybody kind of gave to each other. Did he really just say, I need you to go from a 3-pack a game guy to a 2-pack a game guy? And it was just funny. But what Guillen said, he goes, hey, when he does this, automatic double play. I'm like, what? And he goes, just throw a sinker middle. Automatic double play. I threw a sinker, 2-hop, turned to double play, and we're all running in. Like, did the last 5 minutes just happen? Like, he makes a trip. He makes a funny joke. He does this little, while he's talking, he's doing this. And we're back in the dugout kind of giggling about it. But he was Hall of Fame about in everything that he did. His tirades after games in the clubhouse were unbelievable. And the first time it happens, you're looking at all the veterans. We had Maglio and we had Sheffield, Pudge, Todd Jones. We had a bunch of, like, Kenny Rogers. And so you're in there, and I had just come over from, I came up from AAA, but I wasn't in the clubhouse. And he's in full uni, so he's in all those Tigers whites that you can see in your sleep, And he's in a full uni with his hat on, and he comes through, and he's got his pants up, and he's got his fungo in his hand, and we had just faced Paul Bird. Okay, Birdie was throwing maybe 84 miles an hour and flipping a garbage slider in there. God bless him, he's one of my favorite teammates ever, but he wasn't very good at that point, and he shoved it up our tailpipe. And so he comes through, and he's like, this, wiffle ball American Legion bull crap. How does this guy beat us? Like, he's just, and he goes through and he's got his full uni on. Well, he comes back through and the fungo is gone somewhere. His hat's off now. And you're like, okay, well, wait for him to go back to his office. And he goes through, he's still saying it. He's like 84 freaking miles an hour. My son could do that. Patrick could do that, right? And he goes through, and I start to get up. I'm like, oh, okay, I can start to get undressed. I can go shower, go lift, or whatever I was going to do. And everybody's like, no. He's not even close to done. So I sit back down. He comes back through, and he's got like just his T-shirt on and his sliders that are almost down to his ankles. And he has shower shoes on, and he's disheveled. His hair's a little all over the place. And he's like, can't believe this is a big league team. I can't, all these names, all these guys with all these freaking stats on the back of their card, and we can't hit 84 miles an hour. This guy's flipping in freaking wiffle ball, breaking balls, and we freaking sit. He just kept going off. He did it probably 8 times, 4 there, 4 back. And by the time he was done, he was just in his sliders. And I think he probably smoked 2 Marlboro Reds at that point. Like, he was just, it was like you're watching a movie. But it was really happening. And I just remember you kind of reflect when you're a player, like, is he yelling at me? Did I do anything in the last couple of weeks that he could be mad about now? No, these guys just didn't hit Paul Bird. Like, Birdie shut him down. But yeah, that's the type of guy Leyland was. But if you went into his office immediately after, he'd have his feet up on the desk, smiling and laughing. He's like, I got him, didn't I? Like, it wasn't for show, but it was like, I need them to know, like, that's unacceptable. But at the same time, like, what are you going to do? Like, it's big league pitcher just shut us down, and, we got to play again tomorrow, so I'll undress him so they don't have to think about it. But he came up to me after I started for like 12 starts while Kenny Rogers was on the shelf with like I think he had a blood clot, and he needed to get that cleared. And then Andrew Miller came up, and so both of those guys were kind of coming into the fray, and the bullpen wasn't doing as well as we would like in the 6th and 7th inning. So he kind of, said, hey, Derbs, I know you could go out there, give up 3, go 6, and we're probably going to win most of those games, but we want to win a World Series. We lost last year. We want to win this year. And would you don't really have a choice. I'm going to send you down to the bullpen, but I want you to think about, like, that role. I think you could do a good job. In the very first, I think I had a relief outing in Atlanta, where I hit a sac fly off Will Ledesma, if y'all remember Will. I had a sac fly off him. Through the last 3, I actually got a save. I closed out the game. And then the next time out, we were in Chicago playing the White Sox, and Jim Thome was on the team. I got into a 3-0 count in a tie ball game in like the 7th inning. And as a starter, 3-0, you just groove a fastball because they're going to take, right? So Jim Thome, 3-0, he hits one into the bullpen, homer. And Jim Leyland comes out to the mound after. He's like, hey, did you think he was taken there? I was like, yes, sir. And he goes, well, you learned that lesson. Hopefully we can find a way to win this game. And he just took off. I mean, I don't even think Pudge and the rest of the infield even got there. It was kind of like a flyby. Like, he just kind of, did you think? And okay, then you learned your lesson. And he went down. But he never really berated you. He's like, man, if you don't do good enough, they're going to send you down because we're trying to win. Dabrowski, he likes to win baseball games. And if you're not doing well, they're going to replace you. And I kind of really liked that. This is why I like playing on really good teams. Like, you perform or you don't. But the idea is to win 90 games, go to the playoffs.
Since you brought it up, I guess we'll talk about it. 2008. So inside, like, I get, being the former player, give us the inside of, like, the postseason. I mean, you're flying boom, boom, boom. You're trying to win ball games. You're trying to stay focused. How are you staying loose? It's kind of quick. Just kind of give us the inside of, like, a basically World Series team in the postseason, and just kind of the ins and outs of that.
So I think in 2008, only a couple guys on that roster had ever been to the postseason beyond the divisional round, right? I don't think, none of the Phillies guys, I hadn't. I was on the 2006 team that made the World Series for the Tigers, but I was not a threat. I wasn't going to pitch. They had enough guys, but it was you kind of were like so much media. There's so many people. There's so many things as a player you're doing that are different than any other part of the season. You're flying people in. You're putting people in hotels. People that you told when you were 18, if you ever make a World Series, you got to fly me up there. Like they're all calling in there. They're like, okay, let's go. And you're just managing a lot more with so much pressure. And look, good managers. Charlie Manuel did a really good job of kind of communicating with us. He's like, look, the regular season was a regular season. Durbin, you threw in the 7th and 8th inning during the regular season. You're going to throw the 5th and 6th. Like that's the reality. Like like it's going to change. We're going with these guys and these innings. And so he defined it and kind of took a little bit of pressure off of, because you don't know what situations you're going to be in until you're in them. But if you can be prepped a little bit, the team was really good, man. You get prepped when you play LA in an NLCS. When you play Milwaukee was really good. We had to beat CC. We had to beat that lineup was really good with Braun and Fielder and everybody. It was just you kind of climb your way there. The East is a monster. The Braves are always good. The Mets were really good. So you kind of climb your way into it, and it's this building of pressure and building of notoriety. You can't go to a restaurant, you can't go to a Walmart, you can't go to a Best Buy and buy some DVDs back then. I remember trying to go in, and my wife's like, "I'll go get them," because you walk in and they're like, "Oh my god!" And I'm nobody. I'm not Jimmy Rollins. I'm not Chase Utley. I'm just a reliever. But that's how big it is. I remember everybody from the Braves rosters in the playoffs, even random relievers. That's how it is. And so when you first experience that, '08 was a blur, and we won. Like it was a blur. In '09, this is why we know it now, but you bring veterans back because they slow everything down. They've seen it. In '09, I can go like in 10-minute increments the whole way. I remember everything. And it was slower. I pitched well. In the World Series, I gave up a broken bat single to Posada that drove in a run or two, and then a fly ball on the gap to Jeter that Victorino said he didn't really see it that well. In Yankee Stadium, it went up, and he's like, this first year Yankee Stadium was there, and it just floated in the lights and landed on the grass in left center. It's a big left center, but Victorino catches that ball 99 times out of 100, but he didn't. And it dropped, and that was game 6 where we lost. But I pitched well up to that point. In fact, Peter Gammons was like, Durbin, in an interview, you hadn't given up a run in 11 postseason innings or whatever it was. I'm like, oh, thanks, appreciate that. Like, I'm superstitious. Like, we're screwed now. I'm cooked. But the media, the stories, the coverage, the players, the big moments. It's Matt Stairs hitting the home run in '08. I tell people this, like when you're at home, your fans, it's a zoo. Like they go nuts. The towels are, it's 45,000 people screaming and yelling. When you do it on the road, it's just your family section and your dugout. The whole place, other than that, is pin drop. And so that's kind of the memories of those moments. And I gave up a game-tying home run to one of my former teammates, Casey Blake. And it gets forgotten about because Matt Stairs erases it with a swing. And nobody has any clue what the score was. Just that Matt Stairs hit that home run and the Phillies won the World Series. And that's kind of the way that it was. I thought we were better in '09 and '10. And we lost to the Yankees in '09, lost to Tim Lincecum and Bumgarner as rookies, or first couple years. They were so good. And I, the lead singer, y'all are a little bit younger, but the lead singer for Journey, I think it's Perry. He was a recluse. Like he sang and then he quit performing. Well, me and Ryan Madsen and Brad Lidge and Scott Air and all these guys were down the line. And after the 7th inning stretch, they start playing Lights, City by the Bay. And we're in San Francisco, and he's got a foot up on the top rail in a suite. And he's on the big screen. He's air miking his own song, and with like literally like Ryan's backdrop of like the sunset and all that stuff. Like it literally, we're like, oh my god, we got no chance at winning this game. This guy just took it to another level, and it was just one of those moments. But yeah, the 10 team. And then 2011, when I wasn't there, I was with Cleveland. I arguably even better. And so that run there of years reminded me of what the Braves did for like 15 years before that. Just every guy that they brought up was a stud. And, it'll be a lot of fun this year to kind of follow the East again, because the Braves will not be what they were last year. Nobody's really, even guys like us know, but everybody kind of pays attention to what's happening up, in New York and Philly. And it's like, the Braves had a down year, and they could go out and win 95 games this year. And it won't take long before MLB Network and everybody else is, D-Rose from there. They're going to start talking about it as soon as it's, talkable about. Like, they're going to get it. But, yeah, they're going to be really good this year. And I don't know which one of the other teams is going to fall apart, but somebody's got to if they're going to go win 95.
Probably the Mets, honestly.
It is fun to watch.
So basically what you're saying is that champagne shower is absolutely what you can dream of.
Well, look, going through that process where you win, like I can still, as soon as you said that, I can smell champagne in how it feels when you're walking on it on a carpet, that's going to get replaced the next day. It's just, it's what you dream about, and when you're doing it, it's hard to believe it's actually happening. So yeah, any of those teams could make a run at it. 8 teams make the playoffs now?
Is it 8?
Yeah.
Yeah. They've got to be. If there's 15 teams in the league, you gotta consider them as in the top half. So and I don't know, we'll see, but it's certainly fun to watch them play. I like some of the talent on that roster. So we'll have to revisit that one a little bit later on. But once they get rolling, like spring training, you're gonna have some knee-jerk reactions to situations that don't matter a whole lot to the guys that have been around. Yep. Cole Hamels, who threw 92 to 95, would be 84, 85 every spring, and the media would start to panic. And then the third deck would get there, and all of a sudden he was really good again. And I just think there's guys like, Utley used to call it taking pictures. I'm not going to swing a bat for my first 5 or 6 at bats. I'm just going to go up there and track balls. And, I guess you can do that when you're really good. Chipper could do it, back in the day. Ronald Acuna could do it. But if you're a guy that's fighting for his life, you're not doing it. And so, yeah, you're really you're looking at a roster that's trying to figure out who the 23rd through 26th guy is. The rest of the spots are taken. Unless chaos ensues. So that's kind of the story of every spring is, who's going to be our 5th starter and which one of those guys can go to the pen? Who's going to be this? Who's going to be that? If we stay healthy, what's going to happen here? And injuries happen every year, especially we talk about arms. You're going to have an arm or two go down, and it always sucks, but it's opportunity for somebody that, is waiting in the wings. Giddy up.
Ryan, do you have anything else?
Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna steal one of yours, Jeb.
All right.
So, if you could take one pitch from any pitcher in today's game and add it to your arsenal, which one would it be and why?
Whew. Man, look, if I threw a version of Mariano, he's not today's game. Mariano's cutter. And we faced him over the years. And every guy that faced him was just it was inevitable. It's just, how many times in today's game you know what's coming and it doesn't matter. That was what he did. And so I guess in today's game, Mason Miller's 104, black.
Oh my God.
It doesn't even look real.
That's so stupid.
It looks like your TV glitches or your phone glitches when you're watching it. You're like, that's not real. 104 and electric slider. I would say there's some guys that have some. Look, if Pitching Ninja does such a good job, honest to goodness. When Rob pumps out, there's a kid from UCSB and my son's team. Southern Miss played him the other day. Jackson, Florida. He's got these unique metrics where it almost looks like it's cutting, but it's cutting and riding, and it's 100 miles an hour. Like, that can't suck to know you got that in the arsenal. And he throws like a 90 to 92 mile an hour sweeper. And my son, he gets on the phone. He's like, well, I mean, didn't look like the breaking ball was that good. And I was like, it doesn't have to be that good. It's a breaking ball at 91 miles an hour, and you're getting ready for a hundo. Like, maybe any version of that stuff. You know, I don't know. There's so many guys. There's some guy on tread throwing an 88 mile an hour knuckleball. You know, there's guys, there's dudes all over the place. You know, some of the guys that throw splitties. There's actually Jose Contreras. His son is going to pitch for Team Brazil in the WBC. He's a 17-year-old senior in high school. He throws a split finger. He's 95 to 98 right now.
Holy crap.
Jose's probably 6'4", 260, big human.
Yes.
And his son, Joseph, is probably 2 inches taller. Shoulders are almost as wide. Like, it's you know, so I see what's coming, and it's like, holy crap, everybody's just, you have to be an outlier one way or another. Like, yeah, I call it a little bit of a freak show, right? Aaron Judge is a freak.
Yes.
So is Ronald Acuna. So is, you know, Spencer Strider. You got to figure out what your freak is. Like, what do you do that is just outlierish, and go do it. But what I figured out was that the cutter sinker combo looked the same to every hitter until about 10 feet out in front of the plate. And so that was what I did. But today's game, God, 104 would be, I don't know if I could be, I don't know if my Twitter account or X account would be pretty cool. You couldn't even talk to me if I threw 104.
I just want to do it one time to see what it feels like. Just once. Let me grace
Verlander and Zumaya were touching 104 and 105 back in 06, 7, and 8
before it was
on
cool.
a regular basis. Like, I played catch with Verlander and Kimbrel and, you know, Lidge and Papelbon and all these guys. I was the guy that could catch those guys. Other guys were like, I don't want to play catch with those guys. But Verlander had this thing where he would play catch with you at one speed, and then he would just juice one. And it would, like, hit the – like, this is where it hits normally. It would hit, like, the top of your glove, and you're like, bro, you got to let me know. Like, I got a family. Like, it just had an extra gear. So he would do it in the game. He'd sit 95, 96, 97, and then he'd throw 103 up there. And I'm like, man, when I try to go get one, it goes from 93 to 93.5. Like, his separation was just different. And I think about, like, you know, having his stuff. And even now, I think he touched 100 last year at 41 or whatever. So, you know, yeah, some of that stuff would be Billy Wagner's freaking fastball or Kimbrel, the one that just climbs up the zone. Guaranteed, like, new data would be low VAA with a ton of vert, all that stuff. But yeah, throwing 100 with a bunch of movement, you know, telling guys it's coming and they can't hit it, that would be fun.
That's why pitchers are so evil.
Or is it Rogers? Which one's the one that throws from, like, the dirt? Submarine. Kyle Rogers?
Oh, is it Tyler?
It's
or
Taylor Rogers, I think. No,
Yeah,
Tyler.
yeah.
Tyler. It might be Tyler.
Tyler.
You don't have to throw that hard. He hit a guy, full swing, hit a guy, like, in the shoulder. Left-handed hitter last year. And the hitter thought he was on it. You know, it's blitz ball. He's playing blitz ball. That might be the one that I want. Like the submarine, you know, 78 mile an hour blitz ball.
All right, we're going to be respectful of your time because, quite frankly, we're going to have you on again at some point.
We can go. Let's get it like a couple weeks into the season and then fire this bad boy up. You know,
absolutely. We'll get you on.
When do some of I played on a bunch of teams, so I guess my former teams are going to play each other, you know, periodically. But obviously, Braves and Phillies are going to be the most interesting.
Yeah, we can shoot some shit when Atlanta, sweeps Philly or whatever it may be
at the bank.
But we'll ask you some rapid fire, and then we've got one last question we ask all our guests, and then we'll get you out of here. So, starting off, your favorite hitter to face?
Frenchie, Jeff Francoeur.
Why? Because you knew you could throw it in the dirt and he'd swing at it?
I think he was like 1 for 20 off me or something.
That'd be my favorite too, for sure.
It was him and David Wright both just couldn't hit. Like, I know Frenchie hit a couple doubles in spring training, and like he would even say, standing on the bag at second, like, that doesn't count, Durbin. It doesn't count. I'm so mad. Like, I'm gonna get my hit now. And he's the nicest guy in the league. Like, I wanted to be friends with him. You can't be friends with a guy when that scenario is playing out. You got to wait until he starts to hit off you. So yeah, that's my guy.
Somebody you wish you could pitch to today. Somebody you wish you could face today.
Shohei. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Yeah,
Nope.
I just need an L screen. You know, I don't want to hit anything back at me. It would just be really cool to face Babe Ruth, you know?
Oh, man.
My mom cheered when Cal Ripken Jr. hit a home run off me when I was a rookie. My sister got mad at my mom.
That's
She cheered.
all.
She was like, that's the coolest thing. He gave up a home run to Cal Ripken Jr. You can't take that away from him. I was like,
Well,
my sister was
thanks.
like, but he's on the other team.
It's not like I'm fighting for my life up here in the big leagues or anything. That's cool.
Albert Bell's on deck, Mom.
Thoughts on the WBC?
I think it's fantastic. I just know that it's limited. Like I think it's a lot of fun to watch, man. The DR and Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Mexico, Canada getting to go together. They got buddies that are coaching some of these teams from Europe. Like it really is cool. It just stinks that it's hard to manage.
Yeah.
It's hard to put it together. What D-Rose doing with that staff and what he's doing with that roster, it's awesome. It's really, really, it's cool. But like Scooble, I think he came out and he's going to make one start against like Great Britain for 60 pitches. And yeah, that's the reality. Like you're trying to win a World Series. But yeah, I think it's really cool. I just wish it was somehow managed in a way that, we got to see the best of the best for, full throttle.
Did you play through an injury, and how did you kind of manage that, or did you tap out? Kind of how did that go?
So I fought through almost every injury I ever had. Tommy John, my elbow gave a little bit in January, and I didn't have surgery till September. I just had a really bad year. And I figured, I'm 23, I must be getting old. It just hurts. In Atlanta, I had a hamstring, and K-tape and wrapped and everything, and the Phillies guys knew it. So I had guys bunting on me that, and I hop off the mound, kind of limp out there. But you do what you can. If I'm still getting outs and I don't feel like I'm going to hurt the team, I'm going to go out there and play. If I feel like I can't do my job, then I'm going to say something. So yeah, look, I try to explain to my son or anybody else to tell y'all, I was probably 100%, 10% of my career. 90% of the time, something's up.
Yeah.
You're tight here. You got an oblique that's acting up. Your elbow's tight. Your hips are locked up. Whatever it is. And you just you figure it out. You outcompete the next guy.
Did you know your off days? What would you do on them? Like during a series? What would you do on your off days? Or was it like, yep, bring him in?
So I started for 9 years of a 17-year career, and I relieved for 8 years. So those.
I guess that's what I mean. Is like you relieved.
So when I relieved, it was, hey, I'll go play 9 holes of golf on an off day, but I can't go play 18. And usually early in the season, the guys that are pitching on the plus side of things, meaning close games, they're going to space it out, kind of make sure you're ready for the stretch run, and then it's be ready every day. And Charlie Manuel, he's like, hey, look, there won't be back-to-back days until after the All-Star break, and then once we hit late August and September, you might pitch every day. And I pitched 8, 9, 10 in a row sometimes, and it was just if you're getting outs, you're getting outs. You have to know how to manage that, because you can throw every day. You just have to manage all the work in between. Like, are you going to long toss and rip through pull downs and throw a flat ground? No. So you have to manage that. So your off days, when you're in that situation, sleep till noon, try to eat really well, don't drink. Just try to keep your body in as good of a chance to be anti-inflamed as possible. You just give yourself a shot.
What is something you took seriously and worked on the most in spring training?
I worked on, and it was part of getting ready physically, but I worked on PFPs. Something that separated me from other relievers or other starters was, if there's guys on
Former
first and
shortstop.
yeah, I mean, if a manager is considering pulling me out and bringing somebody else in, but they know I can field the bunt, and get the out at third, then they're going to leave me in there. It's a different game now. Obviously, there's not as much bunting going on, but back then that was a big piece, and I felt like it got your cardio up. So you could go out there with a coach and tell them, hey, I want 2 buckets, and let's go at a pretty good pace and get it going. But I thought fielding your position was, it's kind of like base running for an offensive player. It's respectful to the team. You're a good teammate if you run the bases the right way. You're a good teammate if you take PFPs serious. Like, can I go out fundamental somebody if I'm going to be, and my WAR tells me that I am average as hell. I'm a 0 WAR. That means I'm not above or below the average replacement. So how am I going to separate myself and be really good in the clubhouse, be a glue guy, and I'm not going to do the little things poorly, like, hold runners well, pick off, don't walk a ton of guys. Like, that spring training's kind of when you hone some of that skill.
How good was Ryan McCann? Like, game calling, like in the clubhouse, like players meetings, stuff like that.
Underappreciated, certainly, just not enough people know how good he was for a long time. You'd rather face almost everybody else in the lineup. He was potential to go deep every time he went up there, and he would fight like hell and foul off a bunch of balls. But as far as like throwing to him, he got really low, worked underneath the baseball, stole a lot of strikes, and such a good human being that I think he had the umpires on his side too. Like, by the 7th inning, I mean, if you've ever even been, listening in on an interview that he does, by the end of it, you're like, this is one of the best human beings out there. BMAC's a guy you pull for. So umpires are human, and back then they weren't being judged by ABS and TrackMan and or StatCast. So I'm sure it's like, BMAC, man, if you can make it look good, I'm gonna call it a strike. Let's work together, brother. It's the human element. He was a phenomenal teammate. And I've run into him here and there. His kids are playing ball, and my kids, running around. I mean, you say hi and send a text later on. But, yeah, one of the best human beings to play the game.
Love that. All right, last question we ask everybody. Are you familiar with the escape rooms?
Yeah, I have never done one, but our kids and all them, they do them a ton.
All right. I'll do this in 2 parts, all right? Pick one teammate, any team, that you would want to do that with, and then pick one Atlanta Brave, of course, that you would want to do that with.
All right. I'm going to go with Jeff Austin, Stanford guy. He's probably the guy I go into the room with. Super intelligent, very practical. He's probably finding his way out of that room. I'd want to be in that room too. So. And then as far as a Brave, man, I'm thinking like maybe Chris Medlin, just a crafty guy from Compton. Where's he from? Like
Is it Long Beach?
He's from out there. But like if you actually look at what high school he went to, it's like one of the names from Boys in the Hood. Like he's a dude that just survived and made it. Like, Chris Medlin might be the guy you bring in there. If not him, I'm telling you, Martin Prado, I'm going to have a good time while I'm in there. Like, he's going to figure it out.
Oh, my gosh. That's awesome. He seemed like a trip.
Oh, the dude hit 300 every year, too.
Yes.
Like, just firing balls down the right field line, bunts. He was a nightmare to face. And so having him on your team, it was like, you take a breath when you're facing Chipper and Brian McCann and all these guys. And then, like, this Venezuelan guy comes up, and you look up, and he's hitting 301, but just like 8 homers, 20 RBIs. He's harmless. And he just shoots you in a gap. You're like, oh, okay.
That's awesome. Chad, really appreciate you coming on. Like I said, we'll have to do this again.
Absolutely.
This was awesome.
This was fun.
Good stuff, Chad. I appreciate it. I'm going to go try to finish. I made like a crock pot. I cheated tonight because we're in Louisiana, dude. We know how to cook. So gumbos and etouffees and all that stuff. I threw some chicken. I have one son that just like he's gonna be fine in college. He's chicken wings and all that stuff. The rest of them have really good palates. So I threw literally like four or five chicken breasts in a crock pot and taco seasoning from Taco Bell and some salsa. I'm gonna let that cook down. Kind of pull it apart. Throw some. I'm literally cans of corn and black beans in there and throw it on some rice and he'll be okay. It's good. I'm telling you, like it's one of those sneaky ones.
Yes.
Well, you've heard it here first. Chad Durbin, future cook, coming to
etouffee. It's crawfish season down here, guys.
Yep.
Like we're about to start eating crawfish all the time.
There you go. Once again, thanks, man. We really appreciate it.
All right, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That was Chad. Special thanks to him. Just your local trash podcast coming through with another special guest. What more can you say?
Trash.
Sorry about it. You fucking hate it. You really do. They fucking hate
Jeff,
to see
you can't say fucking on the damn podcast. We get called trash when we do that.
Yeah. Whatever. Hey, look. If they're listening and they're really going to bitch about it, then they'll tag us. And that just means we know that they listened to the podcast for an hour and 20 minutes or whatever.
Hardcore haters, dude. They're out there. That's really fucking sad.
Speaking of haters, a certain top, 10 perennial candidate of players of baseball every year is getting a lot of hate right now because his first spring training game, he smoked a ball 112 miles an hour off the bat and pimped it, I guess, and people are up in arms about this.
It's insane, dude.
I guess.
Absolutely insane. Like, if you're really upset about Ronald pimping the ball because he hit it 112 miles an hour and he thought it was way out of the fucking stadium in a spring training game, go get a fucking life. Go do something else besides watch baseball because it's getting too much for you.
Now, I get it, like if you want the guy to hustle, but it's also the second game of spring training. And it's kind of like what I tweeted. Guys are, and even like Chad alluded to, man, like a lot of those guys up there are just
levels,
like
dude.
Just looking at pitches, just window shopping, or just working on mechanics, or just working on some. I mean, Ronald even lowered his hands and opened his stance a little bit too. Like they're just working on different stuff. I
Breakdown
don't.
Video, by the way, is out on that.
Yeah, show that some love. I don't give a shit if Ronald hit the ball, stood in the box, took a shit on the plate, and bear waddled to first in spring training. I really don't give a shit. These games mean nothing.
Dude,
They mean absolutely nothing. And I'm not saying that they're not important, because they are. You want your players out there getting better.
Ready for the regular season. Listen.
They're important, but they don't matter.
They don't fucking matter. These motherfuckers got to play almost 200 games a year when you account for spring training and postseason potentially.
Yeah.
And you're gonna complain about the dude not running to second base, and for everybody who's like, man, only if he just gave it half effort, he's at second. If maybe the ball was smoked 112 miles an hour and it got there. Number one, number two. I'm not even making excuses at this point. It's fucking spring training. I wouldn't care if Chipper Jones did that. I wouldn't care if Austin Riley did that or Matt Olson. Wouldn't give one shit. But because it's Ronald Acuna Jr., there's just a certain population that just hates on him for no reason.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Well, no, I'm not actually going to play devil's advocate. I'm just going to say that would probably be the same group that if he was sprinting and
Like
tore
he
his
was in
ACL.
Miami and blew his ACL out.
Yeah, they would be bitching that he was going all out in a spring training game. I guarantee that'd be the
'cause
same.
I got the comment today that it was because of his poor diet and conditioning. Yeah, that's what somebody tweeted at me. It's because he had poor diet and conditioning. I'm like, brother, you're just showing how much of a dumbass you really fucking are.
So, did that person, like, feed Ronald Acuna like a baby?
I have no
like,
clue.
with a spoon?
I'm like, I'm glad you have that kind of connection with him to know what he's putting in his diet and what workout routine he's got.
Well,
going on.
you should have asked him if he could have got him on the pod for us. Fuck. If he's
you,
that
been
close
trying.
with him.
Been trying. It dumbfounds me every spring training of the stupid things that we get upset about. It really does. It really does. Just like people are upset that there wasn't a radar gun on Spencer Strider. I can tell you by my eyes alone, that bat against Ronald, he was hitting 94 probably easy. That ball had some freaking cheese coming off of it when he threw it in there.
I mean, I don't necessarily really give a shit about live ABs because I want the pitchers to look good, but I also want the hitters to look good, so it's kind of it just cancels each other out. If one looks good, the other looks like shit. If one looks like shit, the other one looks good, you know?
Dude, we're what, 2 weeks into spring training when people are already freaking out about stupid shit? Like, we got a whole long season. Y'all pace your fucking selves with the stupidity, please. Please, pace yourselves. There's only so much we can handle.
Yep. Mike Yazinski. Mike Wazowski. Went
Big
deep.
bomb, first at bat.
Big bomb, first AB. Drake Baldwin had a little 2-hit piece. Looking good. The reigning rookie of the year, so that's always good. Riley, I think, had a knock. I believe Ole had a knock, too. And then Aaron Schmuck was the fucking DH. I think that absolutely dumbfounds me. How they will start Chris Sale and start the whole starting lineup and then just DH some slapdick.
They gotta get their ABs in, man. Come on.
I know.
You
know.
You call them slapdicks, but they made it a lot farther than you did.
I know. You get my point, though. It's like you're starting the whole starting 9. Why not? Or starting 8. Why not just throw the DH in there? And because they're going to rotate out in 2 or 3 innings anyways. I mean, yeah, but
I don't know.
I don't have anything else. That's really the only thing. We touched on the Ronald controversy, and
There was no controversy. People are making it a controversy.
Yeah.
Some people are bringing up the Jared Kelenic hate. I was like, yeah, you want to know the difference? Jared Kelenic was a 190 hitter for us that was a negative WAR player just about, and he loafed a double into a single in the regular season.
Was also a piece of shit human per source.
Per sources, yes.
Or, I don't want to say piece of shit human, like he's a mass murderer, but like, piece of shit teammate, I should say.
There you go. Bad teammate. Bad teammate.
Bad teammate. I that's all I got, buddy. If you ain't got nothing. All right, we will end it here. Catch us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell, hit the like button. Share it with your friends. I know there's some Braves fans out there who love some trash Braves content. So get the name out there.
Absolutely.
In that case, we'll end it right here, and we'll catch you in the next one. Ryan, you're trash.